morning. Today we have the one and only Alyson Rae Lawson of Rae Lawson Enterprise, aka Alyson Rae, aka Ally Rae, aka A Rae, aka A Rob, aka Queen of the Rae Hive, and aka the hardest working woman alive. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing well. How about yourself?
Can't complain, can't complain. So we'll jump right into it. You're the owner and operator of two 7-Elevens. What does your day-to-day look like? How is it operating two stores?
Operating two stores is stressful, and it's an ongoing process. But I always tell people that no day is the same as an entrepreneur, and no day is ever going to be the same here at a 7-Eleven. There's days when I come in like today where, as you mentioned, the registers were down. Yep. And I had to tend to that. And today was the day where I was going to relax, do some paperwork, eat some watermelon, and just kind of chill and just check on both stores. But just things happen.
Yep.
You just have to roll with it. So it's always different.
Gotcha. So you have worked for multiple cities, you have an MBA, you have multiple degrees, but you were in corporate America for a while and you said you felt underutilized in corporate America. Why did you feel underutilized in corporate America?
Oh man, and I always tell people like entrepreneurship, and I look back on that and I'm like, I don't know why I said that, because entrepreneurship makes you want to be in corporate America, and corporate America makes you want to be an entrepreneur. And it's just from two different aspects, because on days when like something's not working or they call you at 1 a.m. and say somebody didn't show up, you're like, if I could just get some sleep and work a 9 to 5, this would be great, but when you're working a 9 to 5, you're like, if I could just do my own thing, But yeah, I was in corporate America and I just felt completely underutilized. Like you said, I had 3 college degrees, the business acumen that was well developed. I had been a manager before, but I think I was just in the wrong industry. With the wrong company, but again, I was being in it. That's kind of just what triggered it, was that I was just being underutilized and just kind of disrespected. So I was like, let me figure out something else.
Got you. So you were one of 3 winners in a women empowerment initiative with 7-Eleven to get a store. You were already looking into franchising, if I'm correct. Why did you start looking into franchising?
Okay, so my parents are entrepreneurs. So my mother's a realtor, and I saw her retire from the phone company and build her own empire and doing really well for herself. And my father franchised 3 McDonald's in the Oak Cliff, Dallas area. Wow. So I already knew what franchising was and entrepreneurship was. I just wasn't interested. Okay. It just something just had to trigger me first, So I already knew what it was and kind of just what to look for.
Gotcha. So what was that trigger? Was it being underutilized?
Yeah, it was that trigger. That's definitely what did it. But looking back on it, like, you just want to use corporate America as much as you can. Yep. And I always tell myself, like, I probably could have done a couple more years in corporate America just to, like, really get my feet into it, because I was such a young age. But I'll never trade the experience that I currently have here. Gotcha.
So you said your father franchised 3 restaurant chains, 3 McDonald's. Your mother was in real estate. Is there any advice they imparted into you, whether now or growing up, that has helped you as an entrepreneur?
I laugh because my father's a character, so none of the things in which he tells me I can tell you on screen.
Now I want to know more.
No, they kind of just have let me do my own thing, and just have told me to be very smart about it and just giving me little tips along the way. But my parents are very just much of like do it yourself and just see what happens type of people. Got you.
Was there anything that you observed from them? I'm sure you were probably in and out of the stores growing up. Did you observe anything that your father may have done, whether it was team building or anything like that with his franchises?
I just think that it was a respect thing with my father. Like whenever I walked into McDonald's, I would see people like really start, paying attention to what's going on and like really try to like get their stuff together. And I just love that about him. And I think my mom, just her go for it attitude, her it must be done attitude, her whatever it takes attitude, her all right, like let me put my personality on 24/7 type of attitude. So just watching them has been an inspiration in itself.
Awesome. So you went from corporate America, now you own your own business, and everybody wants to be their own boss, right? And have their own company. What are some misconceptions that people may not know about owning the business that you have quickly found out and quickly deal with each and every day?
Yeah, so I tell people this all the time. So people are like, oh my gosh, I would love to work for you. And I've hired some people, from social media who are like, I would love to work for you. And it doesn't work out because they see like fun Alyson, and let's make TikToks Alyson, and let's take pictures Alyson, but it really is a lot more than that. Like my staff, they work extremely, extremely hard, and I stay on them, and you know, it's a respect thing from both ends. So it's not just all kicks and giggles, and I think that that's where people get it misconstrued, is that like, okay, I'm going to own my own business, I'm going to do what I want when I want to do it, and you can, but it just takes time. Like you got to get to that level, because I'm here every single day, you know. This week is probably the first week I'm going to try to take off one day a week and just see what happens. So it's just a lot of hard work behind it that I think people sometimes kind of overlook.
Got you. I'm not sure, are you familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk?
No, what's that?
He's an online social media mogul, but he also owns VaynerMedia and several other companies, multimillionaire. And he travels out of the country a lot. And when you come back in the country, they're like, what's your occupation? And he put on there firefighter. And he's talking about all the fires he has to put out as an entrepreneur.
Right.
I even heard you talk about somebody not showing up or second or third shift and you having to come up there. Talk about putting out those fires, things that people don't think about when they become an entrepreneur, that, hey, you got to wear many hats, and when there's not someone to step in and fill that gap, you have to do it.
Yeah, my staff says that quite often. My managers, they're like, how do you figure that out so fast? And I'm like, sometimes, like, whenever, it's like a puzzle. Like, you just have to kind of put the pieces together and figure things out. But I think a large part of being a good entrepreneur is having good staff and good people that work with you. If you're in this type of, you know, brick and mortar type of situation, I think that is the best. Like I need really good staff in order to kind of just make things function. And so it's like you're not only are you having to be a business person, but you're having to be a boss. I always tell people a babysitter, a therapist, you know what I mean? Like you have to be an all-around type of person just to be an entrepreneur.
Got you. So you talk a lot about team building. You had the second store in 2020 out of 7-Elevens. What are some keys to having that profitability and also to building that team? When you talk about quick service, you talk about convenience stores, you have a lot of turnover. So how are you building teams and building that chemistry and becoming profitable at the store? I
think the first key to it is knowing the right people who really do believe in you. Because I think that because I knew the right people who believed in me and they believed that I could have a second store, that is absolutely key. Because sometimes people will kind of brush over you and don't realize the star in which you are. So that's been very helpful. But as far as everything else goes, like you just need to be able to have people that you can trust, because you have to sleep.
You sleep in entrepreneurship?
And I think, rarely. My sleep comes like during the middle of the day. Like I take 6-hour naps in the middle of the day because I know night is very crucial and morning is very crucial, you know? But I just think that, you know, making sure that all of my staff that are here currently, most of them have been here for about 2 years, or since the beginning. So I think that says a lot about like what we have going on here and the family atmosphere that we have made here, and just the type of person that I am, and I believe in them as well.
Got you. So you talked about having a second store. You purchased the store across the street. How did that come about, and how is it having 2 stores on the same corner?
Two stores on the same corner is a blessing and a curse.
Okay.
It's a blessing always, because you can share supplies, share employees. So the staff that you see here today could be across the street tomorrow. Yep. So they work at both stores. You know, if something happens at one store, a manager can go right across the street. If there's not a manager across the street, it just makes it very, very simpler to kind of keep an eye on what's going on. And so that is probably the best thing that I have going. If I would have had a store away from this, it probably would have been a little bit more stressful. Sure. But I always say it's a curse too, because it kind of creates a crutch of like, okay, so if I get a third store, if I, you know, do something else, like what's going to happen? You know what I mean? Like this kind of operates as one store right now. Yep. But I love having it on the same corner. The community supports me. And they just, I mean, I get calls all the time like, hey, Alyson, like your parking lot, like something, it doesn't look right. You know what I mean? So like the community really does help me, and they're able to see both stores and kind of like, you know, frequent both stores. It just helps. So.
Got you. So talking about that community aspect, I know you have a little bit of creative control about the products that you sell. I believe you guys sold over 1,000 bottles of the McBride Sisters wine in like a weekend. Just tell me about that creative control that you have to have products in your store, and also the importance of supporting the community, supporting Black-owned businesses and such.
Yeah, so we do have a little bit of freedom as to what we put in. A lot of franchisees, and including myself whenever I first started, and still to this day, I kind of just go with the regimen that 7-Eleven has because it kind of works.
Yeah.
You know, like the stuff that's coming in, like 7-Eleven's not about to carry a bunch of stuff that's not going to sell.
Sure.
So I tend to just kind of just stay with the regimen of that. But if something comes to my attention and it's not food related and it has a barcode and you know what I mean? Like it's gonna work and I can actually get it from an actual vendor. Then 9 times out of 10, I'm just gonna try it and see what happens. And so that's what happened with the McBride Sisters. One of my vendors had it, one of the distributors, and I had a friend that worked there. And I saw him post it on his social media, and I was like, I really do want to get this Black Girl Magic in and just see what happens, right? And I got it in, and then it hit and it took off running, you know. We also have Ride Fresh, which is the air fresheners.
Okay.
5 brothers out of Detroit. I think 4 of them went to Howard, I think.
Wow.
But they have the air fresheners that replace the trees in the car. And so I brought them in and I sold over 500 of those in a week. So it's just so being able to support people is amazing, but then also it's not just about me supporting them and bringing them into my store. If I bring it into my store, I have to make sure that it sells, and I have to make sure that I make at least a 35 to 40% GP off of it, you know? So the fact that the community stood behind both of those, it was just amazing.
Gotcha, that's awesome. So you have been featured in local news, national news, you've been on radio shows, you've had celebrities come into the store, you just had someone now go in the store ask for you. What has been the most gratifying of this entire 2-year experience and why?
Right. Well, actually, I had actually paid that person to come in, and no, I didn't.
Okay, well, you got the influencer dollars?
That just happened. I was like, okay, that's crazy that happened. But no, a lot of people just come in and just talk to me, you know what I mean? Like, and I really do appreciate that. It's that type of love that I really do appreciate because it keeps me going. You know, people hit me up on social media, or people, you know, just come into the store or write me. I've had people send me letters, you know what I mean? Like to just really just say that like you're just an inspiration, and that kind of just keeps me going on both ends. And on days where I really feel discouraged, or I feel like, okay, this isn't for me, or I've just lost way too much money, just kind of the people keep me going, you know?
Got you. And what do you think has pulled that community support? You're talking about letters, people come, like, I don't think, in my opinion, most people have that attachment to a convenience store in their neighborhood.
Right.
What's been the difference? Is it your personality on social media? Is it your authenticness? What do you think has brought the community to stand behind you? I
think it's deeper than that. You know what I mean? I think around the time of George Floyd, and I think that was right when the pandemic hit. And I think nobody saw that, you know, a police officer's knee on somebody's neck would turn into a nationwide call to support Black-owned businesses. And that is just really where it sparked. So don't get me wrong, people supported me way before that. People loved coming in. People, you know what I mean? Like, it was definitely my personality and the way that I ran it, and my staff, and how we all kind of worked together, being Black and a female. But I think that is just really what sparked it from there, is that on social media, people were forming groups and like, how can we support? Like, now's the time. Like, this has gotten ridiculous. Let's support Black-owned businesses. And people were saying like, okay, does anybody have a Black-owned mechanic? Does anybody have a Black? Wow. And finally somebody said like, dude, like, we need Black-owned gas stations, and just hundreds of people just tagged me. And it just kind of kicked off from there, which kicked off more social media, news, radio, and now I think people come in because a Black female owns 2 gas stations on the same corner. But then when you come in, you get a delight because you get me. So
there you go.
So win-win.
Got you. So to you, what's the importance of having that Black ownership or being a Black woman entrepreneur?
An example, a legacy. That's the main thing about it. I mean, because at the end of the day, it is a very big struggle. You know, owning 2 gas stations, it's very exciting. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like when you're here as a customer, it's like, man, like, this is nice. Like, she's doing a good job. But like on the back end of it, like, we work really, really hard.
Yeah.
And I think that is kind of the pride that we get from it, is that our customers truly do love us. and they get to see like somebody who's really working for them and really working for the people and the culture and the community. And that's just love in itself. So.
Got you. And where does your drive come from? We talk about 3 degrees. We talk about being in corporate America, then now having 2 gas stations. And I mean, you're the boss, but you're working hard, right?
Yeah.
You're working hard just as the person at the POS system, if not harder, right?
Yeah.
So what does that drive come from? Getting up at 1 a.m., changing your sleep schedule?
Yeah.
Like, what does that drive come from?
I think it's payback from all the amount of work I didn't do in corporate America. I feel like this is God's payback to me. Like, okay, now you're about to do some work. But to me, it's just kind of, it's just what I have to do, you know? My drive every single day, of course, is making money. In this industry, like you don't make a lot of it. Like people feel like, oh my gosh, you're on 2 7-Elevens. Like no, like that's not how the structure is made up. Like you got to have a bunch of them to really just be out here balling. But I think it's just this sense of like, this is mine. And I know when I walk in every single day, like this is mine. And I can build something from there.
Got you. And what piece, I know you do a lot of mentoring in the community and things like that. What piece of advice would you give to young women who are trying to reach their professional goals and desires?
I'll say it's just cliche things like don't give up, you know, like every day I wake up, I'm like 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, this cannot be life. Like, but I'm like, you know what? Don't give up. Like you have to keep going. And then also just remember that there's always gonna be haters. Like there's always gonna be haters in the room. There's always gonna be somebody who doesn't like you or thinks that you can't do it. And 9 times out of 10, those haters are the same people that are supposed to be fighting for you, that are fighting against you. And I've come up against that and I have had to push through it. But it's just those things that like you can't let it get you discouraged, you know.
So you, as we talked about earlier, you have 3 degrees. Mm-hmm. How have you felt that those have been beneficial on your entrepreneurial journey?
I think that the degrees got me to where I am today. And I think that I was promoted in corporate America because of the degrees in which I had. I was hired in certain places because of the degrees in which I had. Do I think that I could do this without a degree? Yes. A lot of franchisees don't have degrees. Like they have money, period. Just to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So do I think that I could have done it without the degrees? Of course. Do I think as a black female I could have done it without the degrees? No. I think I need to bring more to the table than other people in order to be just as successful. So I'm thankful for my degrees. I don't like the student loan debt.
Who does, right?
But I hold them with pride because that's just what I have. And that's what has made me who I am today.
Gotcha. That was interesting that you said you have to do more to get where other people are at. I say that all of the time as a black man. Mm-hmm. We have to win the race by a mile just to show that we're equal. Mm-hmm. How do you keep going in the midst of that? Like, because I'm sure that plays on your psyche. I know it does on mine. How do you keep going knowing like, I got to run 10 times harder just to get where he or she got?
But my thing is what in America has changed? That's how I'm not the first person to have to persevere through something. My ancestors did it. My parents did it. Like, we've just gotten to a point where we could be more outspoken. You know what I mean? So like, this is nothing different. And if my parents could do it, and their parents could do it, and my ancestors can do it, and slaves could do it, I can do it too. I just know that at least I'm fighting a good fight, so that way that people who look at me can be inspired and do the same exact thing. It's just the way the world is right now, and you just have to keep going and just know that like it's going to pay off for, if not for you, then your kids or their friends or somebody. But you just have to know that like you're doing it because you have to, and this is what you have to do to survive.
Facts. That's it. We'll drop it there. That was good.